everybody, and welcome back to Music Impossible. Here's our first video demoing Pro Tools, and I am in the Avid family of tools that I use. I use Sibelius and I use Pro Tools. They are not sponsors of mine, and I just find them to be credible tools and also industry standards in many regards. And so here we are with looking at Pro Tools today. So this is Music Impossible. You can go to musicimpossible.com and find some of these lessons on there as well. We do have a small weekly fee, but we also include tests and quizzes and printables and all sorts of things. So a fantastic resource as we continue to develop and build that site. We hope you come over and join and take a look at what we have there, musicimpossible.com. All right, let's head over to Pro Tools. Let's take a look at what we have here. Now, what we're going to be looking at today is I was teaching a live virtual class, and the assignment was pretty simple. We had a group of kids, and they all kind of came up with a melody, and the melody was meant to just be fun, nothing too complicated, just a really short melody of sorts. And I recorded the melody in the piano. Now, I added the harmony and the accompaniment to the piano track here. So let's just take a listen to the piano part here real quick. A very simple piano melody, nothing too, just a really pretty, it's all diatonic. In other words, it's in the key. It doesn't, there's no secondary dominance or any accidentals in this. This is in the key of C, I believe. And so that's all we have. That's the piano melody that we worked with. And so the melody that you heard there in the right hand was what the class had come up with. I basically said, somebody give me a letter A through G, and everyone contributed around the room, giving me each a letter. And then I came up with a very simple harmonic structure there. Now, the whole idea of demoing Pro Tools here is just to show you the power of what you can do in a very short amount of time. If you have really good theory knowledge and understand chords and chord progressions and how to do voice leading, that is the really basis of what we're trying to do when we teach music theory. And once you have those skills down with some minor keyboard skills, you can create some amazing things. Now, that was Addictive Keys was the name of the piano sample that I use. I do not go down the rabbit hole of buying samples and asking which one is best and which one. I just use Addictive Keys for piano, and then I have the East-West subscription to all of their amazing sounds, and then Omnisphere is the third tool that I use for a lot of synth type things, and that's it. I don't spend a lot of time investigating different samples. I do have some contact instruments, Spitfire strings, that I've used in this one as well. But most of my stuff is East-West and Omnisphere. Okay, so what I did here is I went ahead and I was demoing the idea of doing contrapuntal melodies, and that, or counterpoint. And the idea is to have a melody that works by itself, but then layered on top of each other also works really, really well. And as I was sampling the different things here in Pro Tools, I came up with a flute melody that went along with that piano melody. We start to layer these sounds, and this is what the flute sounds like with the piano. Nothing too complicated, nothing crazy, very simple melody. It's a counter melody to what the piano melody is doing. And after you start to layer these things, sometimes the original melody that you wrote becomes background. It becomes embellishing in a way. And then I decided to add other woodwinds, oboe, and clarinet to that existing melody, creating a few harmonies in there just to double the melody in some places and a couple little harmonies. That's what this sounds like. Take a listen. Okay, now I haven't done anything. This will be a second video, a separate video, but I haven't done any panning or EQ work. This is all MIDI sounds we're hearing. I haven't created any audio files from any of this yet. So this is very basic beginning stuff here. Now I'm going to go ahead and just mute the woodwinds. We're going to bring those back in a little bit. And we have a third melody here, and that's the French horn melody here. Let's take a listen and see what that sounds like. Here's the French horn. Now let's layer that with the woodwinds, and we get to hear what that sounds like with the woodwind sound here as well. So take a listen to this, how it all sort of starts fitting together. Continue to go down, we continue to layer instruments. We're going to go ahead and add on. Let's see. Oh, then we had. Oh, here's another melody that I wrote here, kind of in the cello section. Let's see what the cello sounds like by itself as a fourth melody. Although that's not melodically strong, it does act as a counterpoint to the other voices that are happening. So let's add back the French horns. Let's add back the clarinet, oboe, and flute. Let's have all of those sort of moving lines or melodic lines, and then we'll show you how we filled out the rest of the ensemble. Here it is, all the melody instruments. Now, to fill out the ensemble, I decided that maybe I would create sort of this rhythmic thing here in the upper strings. So of violins and violas, I kind of put the violin 2 in the same line here as the violin 1. So there's really not a violin 2 here. In fact, if you right-click on a track you're not using in Pro Tools, you could say hide and make inactive right here. So I'm going to click that. And that track goes away and it becomes inactive. And that anytime you do that, it's going to reduce some of the processing needs. Anytime you take something away that Pro Tools doesn't have to process, it helps with your processing everything else you are using. All right, so here's this little rhythmic thing in the violins and violas. Let's take a listen to that. Add the piano back in. So we just have like a little eighth note rhythmic thing, just filling out the chords, gives the line a little bit of emotion. We have so much sort of legato, flowy counter melodies and counterpoints here that adding a little bit of rhythm underneath of that kind of fills out the ensemble a little bit. And then if I come in and I add the bass here, and then the trombones are just playing chords here as well. This sort of fills out our accompaniment section, and that sounds like this. Take out the piano just to listen to that once. And one little fix I can show you here, kind of in this last little section where the strings go up to the 4/6/4 chord, the second inversion 4 chord there. We have a little bit too accented for me. If you listen to this by itself, just the violins and violas. Bum, 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 bum. That sort of jumps out a little bit too much for me, and that's a velocity issue here. So if we take a look at right here, these notes right here are a little bit too strong. So I'm just going to pull the velocities back on the violas here, and then I'm going to pull the velocity also back here on the violin, so that doesn't jump out as much. I don't like that that accent very much. Now that's a little bit more even and balanced. I like that better. And so it's a little fix we can do there. We're going to go ahead and make our tracks a little bit smaller all the way around. Now let's everything together. What does that sound like with all of these layers? So everything is off solo, everything is off mute. And again, remember, nothing has been mixed yet. Nothing has been EQ'd. We haven't panned anything. There's nothing special going on that that has really made this sort of a professional sound. This is the very beginning of our processing time. Take a listen to the whole thing. Here we go. So that's the whole thing together. And just starting off with a basic melody, a very basic 1-4-5 chord progression, we've created just for this really cool counterpoint thing that would work. I mean, we could do that in so many different things, maybe a transition scene in a film, or it's really not that difficult harmonically or melodically, but it works in certain circumstances. And one little thing that's kind of neat to point out here in this cello line right here, and just everything else is sort of holding a whole note here. You still have the rhythmic thing going on in the upper strings, but all of our counterpoints are holding these long notes. So right here, I've just added like this little neighbor tone right here in the cello, just to give the line a little bit of movement during these whole notes. Take a listen. La da dum, whatever those notes are, and the cello just gives a little bit of a movement there in the cello. Just the cello by itself, you can hear it. Da da dum. Just a little bit of movement there. It's not very loud. It's not high in the mix. And when I did the final mix, it wouldn't be high in the mix either. But that's the idea. We're trying to create a little bit of a movement there during a time where the rest of the melody, it's kind of this half cadence here, where the phrase is sort of at a halfway point after the first 4 bars. A little bit of movement there in the cello. It's just a simple neighbor tone, nothing super fancy. All right, well, that's the kind of the first part of this activity. Then we're going to take and flesh this out, and then I'm going to show you guys how to then create all of these files into audio files, and then what we do in the mixing process, and what I do for EQ and panning, and just very simple things to make this, give this some life, add a little bit of reverb into it. We might even go in and change some of the mic positions on some of the instruments, so they're a little less reverby, and we can add in the reverb artificially at the end. So anyway, that's it. That's it for today. So that's kind of a very basic way that I work in Pro Tools, and showing you all how to create something very quickly from a counterpoint standpoint and layering. It would be really, really cool. You can even sort of take that melody and play just the piano part through once, and then as the scene progresses or as the piece of music progresses, you can add these layers and take them away and put them in, and it'll all still work by itself. And then maybe at a bigger moment, you would add in the rhythmic strings, and the French horn line would come in, added so that brass element to give it a little bit more punch. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Like, follow, share, all those things. Ring the bell. Thanks so much. See you soon.